What if I told you that the Green Mile's most devastating scenes were based on real death row horrors that Stephen King witnessed firsthand? That the film's gentle giant wasn't the original casting choice, and the movie's supernatural elements hide shocking truths about America's justice system that will completely transform how you see this masterpiece forever? The Stephen King nightmare that almost broke him. You think Stephen King just imagined the Green Mile's horrors? The shocking truth is that King based this story on real death row experiences that haunted him for decades. What most fans don't realize is that King visited actual execution facilities while researching the novel, witnessing the psychological torture that guards and inmates endured daily. He revealed in interviews that the electric chair scenes came from documented botched executions he studied, including cases where victims caught fire or took multiple attempts to die. The most devastating revelation involves Percy Wetmore's sadistic character. King based him on real guards who psychologically tormented condemned prisoners for entertainment. Castle Rock Entertainment initially rejected the project because executives found the subject matter too disturbing for mainstream audiences. King's original manuscript was even darker, containing scenes of guard brutality that were too graphic for publication. The author admitted that writing The Green Mile gave him nightmares and made him question his own fascination with violence and punishment. What's most shocking is that King originally planned the story as a non-supernatural drama about systemic cruelty, but added the healing powers because he couldn't bear to tell a story where good people had no hope of fighting institutional evil. The supernatural elements weren't fantasy. They were King's desperate attempt to find redemption in America's most hopeless places. The Michael Clark Duncan casting miracle. The casting of John Coffey nearly destroyed the film before production began, and Michael Clark Duncan's selection involved a miracle that changed Hollywood forever. What most fans don't realize is that Frank Darabont originally wanted a completely different type of actor for the role. The director spent months auditioning classically trained theater actors, convinced that Coffey required Shakespearean gravitas and technical precision. Duncan was working as a bodyguard for celebrities like Will Smith and had only minor acting credits when he auditioned. Studio executives were horrified by the choice, demanding established stars like Lawrence Fishburne or Danny Glover instead. The breakthrough came when Duncan performed Coffey's healing scene during his screen test. Grown executives reportedly wept watching his performance. Tom Hanks later revealed that he knew Duncan was perfect the moment they met. Michael had this impossible combination of physical intimidation and childlike innocence that made you want to protect him instead of fear him. The most shocking part of Duncan's preparation involved method acting techniques that nearly broke him psychologically. He spent weeks visiting death row facilities and interviewing wrongfully convicted inmates to understand Coffey's mental state. Duncan's own experiences with racism and violence informed his portrayal in ways that made his performance authentically devastating. The actor revealed that playing Coffey's execution scene required therapy afterward because the emotional trauma felt too real. His Oscar nomination proved that unknown actors could deliver performances that established stars never could. The death row set that terrorized the cast. The Green Mile's death row set was designed with such psychological authenticity that it genuinely terrorized the cast and crew, creating real trauma that affected performances in shocking ways. What most fans don't realize is that production designer Terrence Marsh built the set using actual prison blueprints and consulted with former death row guards to ensure horrifying accuracy. The cells were constructed with real steel bars and concrete, creating an atmosphere so oppressive that actors reported claustrophobia and panic attacks during filming. Tom Hanks revealed that spending 12-hour days in the death house made him physically ill and gave him nightmares about execution procedures. The most devastating aspect was the Green Mile corridor itself, painted that sickly institutional green that real prisons use to psychologically break inmates' spirits. Cast members reported that the color created genuine depression and anxiety, with some requiring breaks from filming to recover their mental health. The electric chair prop was built using historical specifications from actual execution equipment, making it so realistic that actors refused to sit in it between takes. James Cromwell, who played Warden Moores, admitted that the set's authenticity made him question his own views on capital punishment and left him emotionally scarred. The sound design added another layer of psychological horror. The constant hum of fluorescent lights, the echo of footsteps on concrete, and the metallic clang of cell doors closing created an auditory nightmare that haunted everyone present. The mouse that stole every scene. Mr. Jingles wasn't just a trained mouse. He was 15 different mice whose performances required Hollywood magic that most fans never suspected. What audiences don't realize is that animal trainer Boone Nar spent 8 months preparing multiple mice for different scenes, since each animal could only work for short periods before becoming stressed. The most shocking revelation involves the mouse's death scene. Frank Darabont revealed that they used a combination of animatronics and live mice to create the heartbreaking moment when Percy steps on Mr. Jingles. "We would never harm an animal, but we needed the emotional impact to feel devastating," Darabont explained. Tom Hanks admitted that working with the mice was more challenging than any human co-star. "You can't direct a mouse. You just have to hope it does something interesting and be ready to capture it." The scenes where Mr. Jingles performs tricks required weeks of training and hundreds of takes to achieve. The mouse's resurrection scene used cutting-edge puppetry and practical effects that took months to perfect. What looks like supernatural healing was actually Michael Clark Duncan's gentle handling of an animatronic mouse so realistic that even the cast believed it was alive. The emotional impact of Mr. Jingles' story comes from the fact that the actors genuinely cared for these animals during filming, creating authentic bonds that translated into their performances. The execution scenes that broke Hollywood. The Green Mile's execution sequences were so psychologically disturbing that they traumatized the cast and crew in ways that are only now being revealed. What most fans don't know is that Frank Darabont consulted with actual executioners and death row chaplains to ensure the scene's accuracy, creating a level of realism that felt uncomfortably authentic. The Dell execution scene required multiple takes because cast members kept breaking character due to genuine emotional distress. Watching even a fake execution was more traumatic than any of us expected, Doug Hutchison revealed. The wet sponge detail came from real execution protocols, where improper preparation led to victims literally cooking alive. Michael Jeter, who played Dell, later admitted that filming his character's death required therapy. "Even though I knew it was fake, the experience of being strapped into that chair while people watched me die was psychologically devastating," he explained. The most shocking aspect was Tom Hanks's reaction during filming. Hanks revealed that watching the execution scenes made him physically sick and forced him to confront his own mortality in ways he wasn't prepared for. The emotional weight of these scenes was so intense that the cast requested grief counselors on set. These weren't actors pretending to be traumatized. They were genuinely processing the psychological impact of participating in simulated executions, even fictional ones. The supernatural elements that hide real horror. The Green Mile's magical realism masks a devastating critique of America's justice system that most viewers completely miss. What Stephen King revealed in later interviews is that John Coffey's healing powers represent the opposite of what the death penalty actually does. Instead of healing society's wounds, it perpetuates cycles of violence and revenge. Frank Darabont confirmed that every supernatural element has a real-world parallel. Coffey's ability to absorb pain represents how the justice system forces innocent people to bear the burden of society's failures, Darabont explained. The healing scenes weren't about fantasy. They were about showing what justice could look like if it focused on restoration instead of retribution. The most profound revelation involves Wild Bill's true nature. His evil isn't supernatural. It's the banality of evil that exists in real serial killers and corrupt systems. Wild Bill represents pure sociopathy, while Coffey represents pure empathy, King noted. The tragedy is that our system destroys the empathetic and rewards the sociopathic. The Green Mile itself symbolizes the path between life and death, but also the thin line between justice and vengeance. Tom Hanks revealed that this symbolism became clear to him only after filming was complete. We were all walking that green mile, trying to maintain our humanity while participating in an inherently inhumane system. The deleted scenes that changed everything. The Green Mile you saw in theaters is significantly different from Frank Darabont's original vision, with several deleted scenes that would have made the film's social commentary even more devastating. The most shocking omission was an extended sequence showing the psychological toll that executions took on the guards' families. In deleted scenes, we see Paul Edgecombe's wife struggling with his job's emotional impact, showing how the death penalty doesn't just destroy those executed, but also traumatizes everyone forced to participate. These scenes were too realistic, Darabont admitted. Test audiences found them more disturbing than the supernatural elements. Another deleted sequence revealed more about John Coffey's background, including flashbacks to his wrongful arrest that showed the racist assumptions that led to his conviction. Tom Hanks revealed that these scenes were cut because they made the injustice too explicit. The studio felt audiences could handle supernatural healing, but not the reality of how our justice system fails black men. The most profound deleted scene showed an alternate ending where Paul Edgecombe dies naturally instead of living with supernatural longevity. This ending was deemed too depressing, but it would have completed the film's meditation on whether witnessing injustice is a burden or a responsibility. These deletions transformed The Green Mile from a direct indictment of capital punishment into a more palatable fantasy about good and evil. The cultural legacy that transformed cinema. The Green Mile's impact extends far beyond entertainment, fundamentally changing how Hollywood approaches stories about crime, punishment, and redemption. What most fans don't realize is that the film's success proved audiences were hungry for complex moral narratives that challenged simple notions of justice and revenge. The casting of Michael Clark Duncan broke Hollywood's traditional patterns, showing that unknown actors could carry major studio films if given meaningful roles. Duncan's performance opened doors for other character actors and proved that authentic emotion trumps star power. His Oscar nomination was historic, representing a shift toward recognizing performances that prioritized humanity over heroics. Frank Darabont revealed that The Green Mile's success influenced a generation of filmmakers to tackle difficult social issues through genre storytelling. You can say things about justice and mortality through fantasy that you can't say in a straightforward drama, he explained. The film demonstrated that supernatural elements could enhance rather than diminish serious social commentary. Most significantly, The Green Mile changed conversations about capital punishment. Death penalty opponents and supporters both claimed the film supported their positions, proving its moral complexity. Tom Hanks noted that the film's greatest achievement was making viewers question their assumptions. "We didn't tell people what to think about the death penalty. We showed them what it feels like to be part of it." The film's enduring power comes from its refusal to provide easy answers to impossible moral questions. These shocking revelations prove that The Green Mile is far more than a supernatural drama. It's a devastating examination of justice, mercy, and the price of maintaining humanity in an inhumane system. From the real death row research that traumatized Stephen King to the casting miracle that made Michael Clark Duncan a star, every aspect of this film emerged from genuine emotional truth rather than Hollywood formula. The next time you watch Paul Edgecombe walk that Green Mile, you'll see the real story behind every scene. The psychological trauma of the cast, the authentic details that made the horror feel real, and the moral complexity that transforms entertainment into art. You'll notice how the supernatural elements enhance rather than escape from brutal social realities. If these hidden secrets amazed you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more devastating revelations about cinema's most powerful films. What other movies do you think are hiding profound truths beneath their surface stories? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to share this video with fellow film fans who think they understand The Green Mile's true meaning.